And we have a long-term thesis in Bitcoin that the value of Bitcoin will go up over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years and beyond, and begin being used as a reserve asset, not just in corporations, but in nation states.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Scott Ellam, the CEO of Connecting Excellence. Scott, very good to speak with you. For US investors discovering Connecting Excellence for the first time, how would you describe the core business and how does executive recruitment sit alongside a disciplined Bitcoin treasury strategy?
Okay, so the core business is an international executive recruitment company. So we place senior level individuals with well-known businesses and small to medium-sized businesses around the world across a number of different industries. Examples might be recently we've placed people at a US sales director level with an AI intelligence software company in January, a UK managing director with a US-based £1 billion plus integrated services firm, and then a US-based director with a globally recognized consulting firm. So we work with the big four, we work with consulting firms, we work with logistics firms, and we work with engineering firms all around the world. And a significant portion of our revenue is based on US clients and US candidates being placed into senior level roles. Now, how does that combine with a Bitcoin treasury? Well, we began acquiring Bitcoin with all surplus cash flows in 2021, which people might remember was the time period where Bitcoin had a winter and drew down in price. Now, throughout that period, our revenues were increasing over 30% in compound annual growth rate throughout that period, which meant that not only were our revenues uncorrelated to Bitcoin and growing, but that we could acquire more Bitcoin as a result of that. And we have a long-term thesis in Bitcoin that the value of Bitcoin will go up over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years and beyond, and begin being used as a reserve asset, not just in corporations, but in nation states. So before coming into the public markets in December, we built a board of capital markets specialists. We have a chairman who was the first person to lead a British pension fund allocation to Bitcoin. We have an ex-Goldman Sachs non-exec director who works in the digital asset space at C level. And we have a board advisor in Richard Byworth, who built and ran the largest Bitcoin-denominated hedge fund in Switzerland over the last decade. And then we have a traditional, if you like, CFO, Angus Gladish, who's spent his career preparing for main market listings. So we've built a capital markets team to run the Bitcoin treasury strategy. And we've got an operational business that grows as a direct result of the public status and the Bitcoin treasury strategy. And the reason that grows as a result, if I give you one key reason there, is that allows us to attract high billing, revenue generating and profitable staff from our direct competitors to keep compounding that operational revenue growth.
Scott, around 30% of your revenue already comes from the US. So why is now the right time to begin trading on the OTCQB? And what does that market offer you?
We have certain milestones to hit across our first 12 months. And one of those was to allow access to US investors early in the process in order to position us well for the capital markets over in the US. And they have quite a significant understanding of the Bitcoin treasury company sort of mandate and strategy in the US, and we are engaged with institutions over in the US talking both about capital raising and increasing our Bitcoin per share, but also we place senior level leaders over there as well. So we already have a network of probably thousands of senior level individuals in the US across a number of different markets, and this allows those clients, investors, access to our shares.
You describe yourself as a profitable operating business, first with the Bitcoin treasury overlay. How should investors think about that balance between cash generative recruitment and long-term Bitcoin accumulation?
Well, we want to position ourselves to be the most attractive business to the capital markets that tend to come in waves in the Bitcoin treasury space. And by positioning ourselves as the operating business that is growing uncorrelated to Bitcoin, and if we took a scenario where the capital markets were shut and we weren't able to issue, we plan to issue further scaled up tranches of our XE Bitcoin bonds, and we plan to issue equity raises at the time when it's appropriate for the business. But if you took an example where the capital markets were shut, we have a conservative growth strategy in the uncorrelated operating business that would still allow the business to accrete, let's say, a 25% yield on the Bitcoin over 12 months. So that's where we're coming from on that perspective, is just putting a floor in to the EBITDA value of the business and a floor into the baseline of the balance sheet value of the business. And then the premium for our shares will be based on the belief in the execution abilities of the capital markets team we have to keep compounding that Bitcoin per share growth.
With the OTCQB trading now live, what are the next key milestones operationally and strategically that your investors should watch out for over the next 12 months?
Well, we want to continue executing on our strategic hiring strategy, which is attracting talent whose performance-based share options that are long dated are linked directly to the revenue and profit that those individuals bring into the business. So they're benefiting. The value alignment between the people that we hire and the shareholders is extremely strong. And the people we are acquiring into the business to generate revenue and profit will benefit from the operational growth that they deliver, from the capital markets experience that we have in increasing Bitcoin per share, and then from the compounding growth rate of Bitcoin over the next 5 to 10 years. As you see the catalyst happen and we see the Clarity Act ideally being passed in the next few weeks in the USA, we've got a new Fed chair coming into the US that's mandated somewhat to lower the interest rates and increase liquidity. So we want to be moving forward as those milestones that are external are happening and setting the foundations for growth internally in the business to capitalize on that. From a Bitcoin treasury point of view, we've stated we want to aim to achieve 1,000 Bitcoin within as fast a possible time frame as we can when it's beneficial to shareholders. But we also see other milestones, and if we've got a reasonably sizable 300, 500 Bitcoin on the balance sheet within that time period and strong volume and liquidity, then we will consider and begin preparing for main markets and increased sort of exposure and ability to engage with the institutional investors who need to see us do that.
Scott, congratulations on your admission to the OTCQB. Thank you very much for your time.
Good to see you, Stephen.
Scott Hallam, the CEO of Connecting Excellence.